Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I'm Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are doing the final mock draft for the Las Vegas Raiders in the 2024 NFL offseason. It's a full 7 round mock draft with trades, and we're going to go over every single selection. But before we do that, if you haven't already, go ahead and like this video and also subscribe to the Tracy Take to get notified whenever we create new content. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the NFL draft, which is about a week away, and we are about 80 or so subscribers away from hitting that goal. So any help is greatly appreciated. So like, subscribe, and also ring the bell to get notified when new videos come out. Ryan, let's pull up this here. So the Raiders, they have so many different directions they could go. It is one of the few teams, if not the only team, I think, where I think anything is on the market here for them, even quarterback. I know they signed Gardner Minshew to that $25 million deal. Then they still have Aiden O'Connell as well, who performed okay, I think, in his rookie season, all things considered, how crazy it was last year in Las Vegas. But I think they could go offensive line here, as we'll get to in a second. Cornerback is a good spot for the top corners to start coming off the board. Potential edge rushers, if they fall, Leatu Latu is still on the board.
I don't think they'll go edge rusher, but
oh, sorry, that's fair. Maybe defensive line is the only one where they wouldn't end up going.
Yeah,
that's fair. So I guess now I say that, and so thank you for catching me there. So,
no, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, if you're commenting, you can backspace now. So Ryan corrected me. So outside of defensive line, but everywhere else though, I think that there are some opportunities I think for this team to improve, and there's just a lot of great players here. We ended up going with Troy Fatanu, a guy here who can move all around the offensive line. Ryan's going to bring up his arm measurements here in a second, some of the concerns leading into the combine, but he's just a stud of an offensive lineman.
Yeah, and I really like his athletic profile, 6'4", 330. He has 34-inch arms, so he crosses that threshold to play tackle. And that was a big question with him coming into like this draft process, because again, there are no tackles in the NFL with less than 33-inch arms, and so I really like what he brings to the table. And I also think so. He did play left tackle at Washington. However, I think what gives him unique versatility is the fact that his quarterback was a lefty, so he was not the blindside protector on Washington's team. So I think he could flip over to the right side and have a similar impact on the right side of an offensive line where the Raiders just lost Jermaine Illuminor. He could also kick into guard and play right guard as well, or either guard spot as well. And so the Raiders do have, I believe it's Colton Miller, the left tackle. And so Fatanu will not be taking over the left tackle spot, but I think going and investing in that right tackle spot would be interesting. If they want to go with a true right tackle, they could go to Lise Fuanga as well. So, but I also, Devontae Smith is getting older. Brian Thomas Jr. is an option. Nate Wiggins or any of the other corners, like you said, I think could be an option. They could trade up and maybe try to get at like 7 or 8 and maybe get another
Jacoby Myers. You said Devontae Smith.
Or Devontae Adams, sorry.
Devontae Adams, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
I was like, I had to think there for a second. I was like, wait.
No, Devontae Adams, I meant. Thanks for catching me. But if they want to go up and get a Rome Odunze or the third wide receiver, I think that is another option there if one of those guys makes it out of the top 6. So, like, they have so many different options in this draft. Yeah. But let's move on now to their second pick overall. So we had them trade the 44 and 112 to New England, who they ended up getting Kingsley Suamataia and Theo Johnson with those picks. And then the Raiders received pick number 34 at the top of the second round. And with that pick, they drafted Michael Penix Jr. And if you look at this wide receiver room, they have the talent to win down the field. And to me, that is where Michael Penix is going to thrive. It is just throwing the football down the field. That's where he thrived in college. I don't want to say struggles with the like intermediate over the middle, but that is the weaker part of his passing game. And I think you have Devontae Adams, you have Jacoby Myers, you just got a solid right tackle as well. And I think you get I don't want to say developmental quarterback, but a quarterback with like some glaring issues who, if those issues weren't a thing, he would be a top 10 pick. And that's just his injury history. So I really like this fit here. They only signed Gardner Minshew to a 2-year deal. Aiden O'Connell is still on his rookie deal. But to me, the signing of Gardner Minshew kind of signals that maybe they're not totally sold on what O'Connell brings to the table long-term. And so going and getting another guy in kind of a Will Levis situation, I think is really good value.
I think also too as well. Then you kind of paired this pick up with the Troy Fautanu pick as well. It's like now you take the offensive lineman, especially the two for a lefty quarterback as well, just because it's a little bit different, but still. Michael Penix is familiar with Troy Fautanu. Fautanu is familiar with Michael Penix and just kind of their tendencies as well. So you already kind of have that transition moving on into the NFL. We saw something similar like this, or with the Raiders trading up. I mean, in this specifically, but we saw this last year with the Titans and Will Levis. So I think this is a very real trade. The Raiders, I think, would be a team that maybe they'll see good value that they go get at a different position. At pick 13 and not feel pressed to go get quarterback, especially also since they did sign Gardner Minshew. It almost does kind of remind me a little bit of the Titans last year because they still did have Tannehill and they just got Malik Willis the year before that. So there was that kind of like just in case. They will have to see how things play out. So I think that this could be a real scenario where they address the offensive line or they address the secondary, see how day one wraps up. And see who all is available. I think Michael Penix is probably going to fall to the second round, unless somebody would want to trade up into the first round. And so I could see the Raiders going up and making this trade. Maybe 44, 112 is a little too much. Maybe they don't go up to 34. But I think this was just kind of a decent deal. I think it actually worked out perfectly in the draft chart.
Yeah, it literally, I like on the Draft Tech trade chart, the values exactly equaled each other.
Yeah.
And so I think for New England, it's a smart move. I actually like it for Las Vegas as well.
Yeah.
So anyways, let's move on to their third round pick. This is where we have Jalen McMillan. Look, I know we're going hard on Washington here.
I just realized actually that we had 3 straight Washington players.
But if you're going to draft from 3 players in the top 100 from an offense, I think Washington is probably the school.
That's probably fair.
Because what they were able to do just in terms of explosive plays, I think was nearly unmatched. I mean, LSU, they had a little bit of an advantage in that category because Jaden Daniels was like responsible for like 104 explosive plays, half of which were with his legs. But I think Washington was second in that category. That like those two, and then Texas, I think, was the third offense that you probably want to target. But anyways, Jalen McMillan, him and Jalen Polk are very different receivers, but they're probably going to go around the same spot. Jalen McMillan is much more shifty and reminds me a little bit more of Jacoby Myers in that sense, but he's going to play a little bit more in the slot. They just got rid of Hunter Renfrow, I believe, and so going and getting a guy that can come in and fill that role, play that third wide receiver role, I think is going to be a pretty essential piece to that offense, especially when you think of if they are going to throw the ball a ton after losing Josh Jacobs. I think that would be a pretty big role for Jalen McMillan in his rookie year.
Yeah. And I think him coming in and then once again just the familiarity of all these players. And I look at that defense. They do need to get some help in the secondary, but I also think they're just such a stud on that defensive front. That front seven is just going to be so great. We've seen that with a lot of these great defenses where there's maybe some deficiencies in the secondary, but the front seven is just so dominant that you just need guys to be average. And we'll address the secondary here in a second, but I think the biggest thing for this team was rebuilding that offense, getting a QB in there, getting another good receiver. Because now then you have Jalen McMillan, you have Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, you have Michael Mayer in the tight end spot who they drafted last year, who I think would also fit really well into this system. If Michael Penix is the guy throwing it. So just a big body type tight end. And then improving that offensive line here, kind of get back to the more dominant running ways. So all offensive heavy here. We're going to go focus on the defensive here now on the day 3 picks with Chow Smith Wade, the cornerback here. You can get that secondary. We don't have the 112 pick because of that trade, but I think that it is worth it kind of with who they all got in the first 3 rounds. And then Nathaniel Watson as well, get the linebacker here in the 6th round. I feel like linebackers and some of these kind of just bigger athletic guys, even some running backs as well, will probably find a little more value with the new kickoff rules. And you're going to need guys that can go and block, but also be quick, and then also guys that can evade blocks and then also can tackle. So I'm bumping up here a little bit in the linebacking room as well. And wrapping up then with Frank Gore Jr., running back position, then CJ Hansen into your offensive line as well, trying to just find some good value pieces as well, especially the two beefing up that running back room since Josh Jacobs has moved on here.
Yeah, and I like a lot of these guys. Frank Gore Jr., I think, is a really solid pick here because to me, every year we find running backs in late day 3 that come in and have an impact. Example, Isaiah Pacheco the last 2 seasons has had a pretty tremendous impact on some big games in the last few years. So all in all, I know we went 3 Washington offensive players back to back to back, but those were just the best players available on the board at the time. They filled needs, I think, for the Las Vegas Raiders and continuity into the NFL. This offense does need it. They need to be more explosive, and those guys were part of one of the most explosive offenses in the league last year. So I just start calling them the Las Vegas Huskies, I guess.
Yeah. That's you know what? I think you would take it. You saw everybody saw the Washington offense last year. I don't think that they would be upset. If the entire Husky team just kind of moved on that. Not the entire Husky team, but just all the good players.
The majority. Yeah. So all in all, I like this draft for the Raiders. I think it gets them on a good track. But let's go ahead and wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of this Las Vegas Raiders 7-round mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let us know what you would do differently. And then that will see you guys